Did it turn off or did it sleep?
Hey, dude.
Video immediately. Or
Hear me,
All I
Tony?
did was touch it and it just showed your.
Tony.
See, so maybe it was right.
Tony.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. See my screen?
Yep.
Nice and
Recording.
alive.
Yeah.
To go.
All right. So I want to start with. So let's see. So today is Wednesday. So we should do design. So I want to start with letting you guys go through what you plan to do. You might not have that much at this point. That's okay. We can still like walk through it, and you can be like, I started looking at this, or I think I'm going to have trouble with this, or we talked about this thing yesterday when we were doing planning and I don't understand it, or whatever the case may be. I'm going to do this with you guys for the next couple of weeks, and then you'll probably start doing this out without me. I just want to get you on the right track for it. So we'll use our normal class time on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays for your meetings for now, for a couple of weeks, and then what we'll do is we'll have you guys start doing your own meetings outside of it, and we'll continue with class. Thursdays and Fridays we'll still do class for the next couple of weeks, and then we'll go back to doing full-time class, which will be fun because what we're going to start to get into is more advanced topics. We'll talk a little bit about like things like polymorphism, deployment strategies, larger architectural design decisions, that type of stuff. We'll stop talking so much about how do you do this particular thing, because you guys are largely there, you largely understand, like I can get this thing done with Stencil, and we'll start talking more about design patterns and how to better orient your code and that type of stuff. Cool? All right, so today though, if we can go around and I just want you to generally talk about what you plan to do, so just start with what you're actually doing. So, I'm getting old and I forget, so what you're actually doing, and then how you plan to accomplish it.
Who wants to start?
I can start if you want to.
You start.
Alright, so I'm doing. Should I be talking loud or?
Yeah, I'll put my computer closer.
Alright, so I'm doing syllabus uploading, and to get that done, basically my URL endpoint on the front end for the actual syllabus will be like a syllabus, and then it will take in a course ID. So that's what I'll be using to get everything. And then from that course ID, I will go up to the database, and I will have a model called syllabus that will, on that model, each syllabus, each instance has an attached course ID, and then obviously the data. And for the data, let me get to the data first. The data, I'll be just base64 encoding it and putting it in the field for the data, and that data will represent the PDF of the syllabus. And I will go through the model and check if there's any syllabus instance that has the course ID for the course that I got on the URL endpoint on the front end. And if there isn't any, then I'm going to display the page for inputting a PDF. If there is an instance, and there should always only be one instance that has the course ID, then I will take the data and then I'll display that as the data, as the syllabus for the course. And then I'll obviously give options for changing the syllabus and then just going back. And that should cover it.
Yeah, so let's talk through a couple things. One, did you look to see if you can base64 encode PDFs?
Yes.
Can
PDFs direct. I'm pretty sure PDFs. Actually, yes.
So
I can.
You can.
I'm sure
Okay.
about that.
Yeah, so that's one thing. Like, if there's ever any uncertainty before we get to design on the next day, the first thing you gotta do is figure out, can we do this way or that way? Just searching the internet and seeing if like there's an example of how to do it, so that you have a strategy and you're sure that you can move forward with it. Because if you can't do that for some reason, which still could be the case, and that's okay, if you can't do it, now you've missed the opportunity to talk through what the alternative design is going to be, right? Because if you find out this afternoon that you can't base64 encode and you have to go to using carrier wave, now you can't talk about what you know about carrier wave, and I can't give you help. The team can't give you help in terms of how you might approach that problem.
And my feeling on why I can use it is I was looking at how I can front display the PDF on the front end, and there was this, I think it's, you call it a framework, but there's this thing called PDF.js, and one of its options, just looking through its examples, was displaying it by decoding a base 64 string into, or a base 64 or whatever,
Yeah.
into,
It turns out though,
you can't do that. Or,
it's usually so creating PDFs is easy.
mm-hmm.
Taking PDFs and doing things to them or with them is hard. So being able to take a base 64 encoded string and turn it into a PDF, turning an image into a PDF is easy. Taking a PDF and turning it into an image, in my experience in the past, has been hard. So it's just like one of those, just because you can do it one way doesn't necessarily mean you can do it the other way. Which is okay. I'm not like, it's all fine, you're gonna figure it out. It's just a useful example to bring up that when we talk about things in planning, if there's any sort of uncertainty, the first thing to do is to become more certain about that uncertainty. Because, and it's just because otherwise you miss the opportunity. Like we won't, I mean we will, because we're gonna be together tomorrow, but in a general dev team, you wouldn't have the opportunity tomorrow to be able to talk about it. And I want to bring this stuff up, and you would in the sense that you could find an individual, but the team's going to get frustrated with you because they're like, you should have brought this up in design, you should have looked at this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a much lower stress area for you guys to learn about these types of things, so I'm bringing it up.
Mm-hmm.
If you were hired as a junior dev and you did something like that, we'd probably have a conversation about it. And here, this context, it's whatever, right? I'm just trying to help you guys learn so that you don't have that problem when you become.
In terms of doing, like, having to come back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like you want to.
What would be the issue?
Yeah,
we
because
have to talk about.
the point of the flow of this Scrum stuff is that you are taking care of things in a very structured manner so that you can do it quickly and efficiently. If you come into design and you're only like halfway prepared, which doing things like not knowing for sure about the uncertainties that we brought up yesterday, then, and you guys are obviously halfway prepared because you probably didn't even know we were going to do this right now, but if you come into a meeting like this halfway prepared, you can only get so much feedback, and then you have to come back to a senior dev tomorrow, and it's like, you had that opportunity. We gave you that opportunity. It was there, and you missed it because you weren't ready. And now you're taking more time away from me, and we're becoming more inefficient, and obviously nobody wants that. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to be clear, like, nobody's in trouble. Nobody's ever in trouble here. Like, I'm just trying to help.
I
Yeah.
see what you're saying. In
Yeah.
terms of the efficiency of doing things when they're supposed to.
Yep. And then, course MD, that should all be fine. I think that's all good. Oh, the one thing, the design, because you talked about showing the syllabus or showing the ability to upload. If they want to replace the syllabus, is there something in the design that
there's an add new syllabus.
At the bottom? Is that the
Bottom,
bottom?
add another image.
Okay.
I don't know why it says image, but yeah. Should it accept
I actually think
images?
It can potentially. I think that might have been one of the ways that I solved it, which is why you did that. I might have, because I talked about like turning the PDF into an image. I might have made it so that.
Is that a feature?
Yeah, so that you could upload like a ping version of it. That might have been the simplest MVP, that you couldn't actually upload the PDF, but you could upload each page, one page at a time, as a JPEG or something that you converted elsewhere. But
so
it
that's
doesn't
an
need.
important question. So what are we doing?
Yeah, we don't need to worry about images. If it's easy, like if you're base 64 encoding anything, you can just base 64 encode anything, a JPEG, whatever, make it available. But the requirement is just to be able to upload a PDF.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
All right, who wants to go next?
Okay. So, my story is to be able to create assignments and view assignments and edit and delete them. So we all kind of went through that individually last week. So I'm basically just gonna. I personally didn't complete that functionality, but a lot of it carries over from the courses. So I'm just gonna use what you guys created, and the new territory I think is organizing the assignments with the dates and grouping them by courses.
And the modal for the create.
And the modal for the create.
Yeah.
Although, yeah, I think that's it.
So how are you doing dates? This is just to ask, just generally for the exercise.
Doing dates,
Yeah, like showing the
I'm
dates. How do you plan to do
ignoring
that?
time.
Ignoring time.
Yeah, so the database just has the date field.
Yeah, as in like formatting them like to look like user pretty. Like, are you using like there's example like Brendan showed us that one library that you can use like so like
It was a moment that he showed you guys.
he showed us like
Images.
date-fns.
Yeah. So I forgot
Or
about
he has the
that.
library. Okay, I'll just ask.
Yeah,
him
no,
just
that's a good
generally
question
for exercise.
because I forgot about that.
I think the way the data is formatted, isn't it just like month dash day dash year?
No, the database gives you like 2019.
I know, but in the UI, dude, I know
Oh.
what the database does.
Yeah, these screens show month, date, year.
Yeah, so the easiest way to do that, because you're right, that's how the database does it. If you just do a split on the string of the date that you get back on the dash, then it'll give you back the month, the day, and the year. And then you can just reorder them, concatenating them back the right way. And then that's the simplest way. And then you just show it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
like 2 lines instead of having to use a JS library or something, or date.fs or anything like that.
And then I was going to use the underscore library to do like the sorting and grouping.
Yep. That makes
Did you have a question?
Do you have to do the actual day name?
The actual day name.
Yeah.
Um,
Monday, Tuesday, whatever.
not that I
think it's in
see.
those screens. There's
Okay.
Not
another
that I see
screen
in
where
design.
there is where you do have to go to that next level of complexity.
Okay. Yeah.
But he doesn't have to worry about that.
I also, in my screens, I just realized it doesn't say anything about courses.
it should.
I think we discussed
Doesn't.
that
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah.
Yeah, so
But
just
yeah.
gonna ignore courses for now.
Yeah, so your table is just going to have course ID and then whatever other, so
Right.
due date, assignment name, whatever. One thing to keep in mind as just a design thing is you should never have the prefix, you should never prefix a field name with a table name. So you should never have a table that's called assignments and then have an assignment name as a field.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
You would just have assignments and then the field would be name. And it's mostly just because it's annoying. We have
Yeah.
this from like the first model that we ever created was institution, and institution has an institution name. It's like,
and that's every
because
time.
whenever you're calling it, you're always already writing institution dot,
Yeah.
and I just want to write institution dot name. That's
Yeah.
much more readable and faster to write than institution dot institution underscore name.
Yeah.
But it's like okay to have like courses with the name attribute, and then assignments comes from courses, but it also has a name.
Yeah, because you would have, so in that case, in the rail side, and depending on how you set up your controllers, etc., you would end up saying courses dot assignment or course dot assignments dot first dot name.
And also, this is at what point like do I put like that my syllabus belongs to course? Will that be next week when my project will actually
That
when
was
we
it.
merge it
Yeah,
and
that was the other
project
thing.
actually will contain a course?
Yeah, you need to wait for the course to do that because it won't have a reference and it'll fail.
Well, that's just one line, so I guess it's not. a big
Yeah,
deal.
and honestly, your code, nothing that you're writing in terms of your code actually even uses that. And the way that the REST controllers are set up and stuff, you'll probably never even use that command, so you can probably get away with not doing it. A thing that you should add, though, is validation, because you only want to have one syllabus per course. You probably want to add a validate uniqueness of course ID
Okay.
to your table.
Yeah.
And that you can do now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But yeah, the belongs to, it actually enforces referential integrity there too. So you'd get all kinds of validations. Even if the course table existed, if you had a syllabus that had a course ID that didn't exist in the courses table, you'd get a bunch of validation errors that you probably don't care very much about. So.
You just do like a has one.
You can do has ones.
Oh.
That has ones won't do as much referential integrity stuff, but has ones they're technically different. Has ones are generally bad ideas. The reason is so has ones really means that you probably should have just added some more fields to the original table. There's
So is that true in the syllabus context?
no. So like in the syllabus context, a syllabus does belong to a course. Like that makes sense even when you say it, right?
But each course only has one.
It only has one, but it's about thinking about like what are we saying about the relationship between these two things, right? So a course has a syllabus. A syllabus belongs to a course. You can potentially have multiple syllabi. We're probably going to move to that model eventually when we talked about like you're going to put 3 syllabi up and then we're going to send that to MTurk and they're going to validate and whatever, right? So we're probably going to move to that model anyway. But the thing there is when you're thinking about the actual relationship in the real world between a course and a syllabus doesn't have a course. A course has a syllabus, right? Does that make sense? So a course has a syllabus, so a syllabus belongs to a course. A syllabus would never have a course. It doesn't make any sense. Just from like a real world thinking about like how they relate to one another. That has one thing. Generally, where that happens is you're trying to sometimes. So the place where that potentially makes sense is where you are trying to create a domain. So you're saying like an institution, for example, has settings. So each institution has a group of settings, and really I know that there can never be more than one setting for the institution. I never want that to change, and so I'm going to create a table called setting, and an institution is going to have one setting, and then setting is going to have one institution. You can do that. You run into some issues, though, especially if you're expecting that the institution always has one setting, which is to say when you create an institution, you make sure that there's a setting there, and vice versa should also occur, but you probably never are going to create a setting and then expect an institution, which actually probably means that it should be a belongs to, right? You would never create a setting expecting that it would create an institution. You would create an institution expecting it has a setting, so you should probably set it up as a belongs to. But if there was a relationship where you actually wanted to have that sort of effect, where you had the domain and the institution, you can run into problems when you're expecting that it always has the second thing, because in ensuring that happens, and if in any transaction it fails and then the rest of your code is expecting that it's always there, you run into problems. So if that's the case, you either probably want to make it a belongs to, where you can expect that it may or may not exist, or you want to just add the fields onto the initial table, institution table, and then it is always there because the fields are on that actual table there as well. Cool. Yeah, the only other place I can think of where you would want to do that, you probably have done something wrong already anyway, but it's where your table becomes so large that it's like not sustainable anymore. There are points at which you have so many fields on the table and then so many rows on the table that it becomes completely non-performant to add a new field and index it. We're in the situation with our institution table. It has like hundreds of rows because we put all of our settings on there, and then it has hundreds of rows and hundreds of columns. And when you add a new column and you index it, the migration to do that takes down the database for 30 minutes. So you can't we can't do a deploy where our database is down for 30 minutes because everything references back to institution. So none of our requests work when that's happening. So we had to move settings into a different place. Really, it was that we should have completely architected that in a very different way, and we did that on the new stuff. But cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, who wants to go?
So I'm doing the courses. So I'm gonna have it pull down from the database, and if there's no courses, then it'll just show the homepage of the add course.
The big button.
Yeah. And then if you click the big button, it'll bring up a modal to add the course, and then put that in the database and display them. Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do, yeah. There are a couple of things, I guess, that are worth talking about. You guys understand where to put images in the stencil project? so that you can
Assets.
access. Yeah, you put in
Mhm.
assets. You can create an images folder inside of there and then move it. And you can just reference it as assets/images/ wherever the image is. The courses have that color on them, right? The
Yeah.
line of
Yeah.
color.
The color palette.
So that's the one place I think it probably makes sense to do custom CSS because I can't think of.
Well, I also you could like create SVGs, but would that be
For the line.
like for each
Color.
wait, yeah, like I created this SVG of a circle.
Yeah.
Should I
So
just, like if,
so there's two places that you probably want custom CSS. One of them is there. That's cool that you did that, but then you have to go do that
for
all of them.
Yeah.
And you can because you have an SVG. It's code. So you could actually just change the color in the SVG. You could loop over it and then change the color out using a variable.
Yeah, can't you just even color it on like the tag or because SVG you can set any color.
Yeah. So you can just change it. But the I would argue the easier way to do it is to create a component that's called like color circle, and then inside of there you just make a div that's 20 pixels by 20 pixels with a border radius of 20 pixels, and it'll create your circle.
Yeah.
And then it accepts a property of the color, and then you just change the style to have a background color of the color that gets passed to the component.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the other advantage of that is it's much lighter weight. You don't have to you don't have to load all of those images
Mm-hmm.
when people are downloading your code.
Yeah. Okay.
But the other place for the custom CSS is in the line that you put on the card,
Mm-hmm.
which also could be as easy as creating a component or even just on that line, just styling it based on the course's color. You just add background color. I don't know exactly how the line coloring works, but you should be able to inspect it.
Should I have like validation so that all the inputs are filled?
You can if you want to. I would suggest that that's like a next level thing.
Yeah.
Like I would finish this story, get it merged into master, then create another issue, throw one with somebody, and put the validation in.
Okay.
I am doing the I'm doing the authentication and login stuff for users. I guess the plan is going to be to use Devise, which is a Rails gem, a Ruby gem. So in order to make all of that work, I've already kind of like stumped out like a front end page that has just like an email and login thing. And I need to make a controller on the back end that uses the built-in Devise methods to check to see if somebody has an account and is logged in, and like if their passwords and stuff are valid. I guess there's methods for that. Yes.
Yeah. All the stuff that you need should be there, and it should be well documented. It's
Yeah.
just about reading a lot of things and implementing.
Yeah, and some of the Devise stuff is like I think a lot of their documentation is like written if you're developing a Rails app and not connecting it to a
API.
different front end. Yeah.
That is true.
So just trying to find like, basically that was yesterday and this morning was just trying to find stuff that kind of like walked through that process. But like I think I understand like the basic like what I need to do, and then just figuring out how to do each of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you'll should take care of, but you'll end up using session cookies for the authentication on the stencil side of things.
Okay.
We'll change that. We use OAuth, so we use token-based authentication when we get to the new stuff. But
Actually, that I did have a question. So presumably when somebody goes to our app, they'll be going to the login page first. That'll be the first thing. So, in terms of the modals, or I don't know anything about modals. I've not looked at them. Will you guys just be able to add the components that I make into your whatever?
Should yours just be screens, and then we'll just reroute?
Well, yeah,
And
you're just doing. You're gonna have the base route.
Yeah.
So the slash routes would go to the login screen, and then you probably have two more routes: one for login and one for create an
Okay.
account. And then once you create an account or log in, when you log in,
Yeah.
you'll take them to Ashland's courses route.
Gotcha. So we are doing different routes for. Okay, cool. That
Yeah,
works.
it's just theirs was on their screens, like already on a course, and you just want to add something.
Mhm.
Then you need to just do it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we're doing different routes, then that makes it. That makes. Easier
Yeah,
for
the
me.
modal is just for you're looking at the course list. I want to create a new one. I'm just gonna pop a modal and then drop it back.
Gotcha.
It just makes it easier to exchange data, and it also the other advantage of that is it keeps you where you are in your list.
Mhm.
So if you were scrolled down halfway, the modal dropping and coming up, you stay where you were.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Okie doke.
Am I allowed to ask a question about
No.
this story?
Yeah.
Is my ad assignment? So we said it was completely separated, isolated from courses,
Mhm.
but we also said you can't add an assignment that's not associated with a course. So in my
You can.
You,
I mean, you
can.
we haven't put the associate. If you haven't
You
put the
haven't put a
association
validation.
yet,
Yeah. So I just wouldn't put the validation in until after you're done testing.
so
Right.
next
So
week,
I just
Next week.
I have like this creeping feeling that I'm going to create my story and somehow it's going to have to be associated with a course, and then like next week
Only if you put that
Just-
one line in. It shouldn't.
Yeah.
we'll just worry about that later.
Yeah, and you really, for this purpose, you don't need to really worry about it ever. It just means you have what we refer to as orphan data, which is basically it's referencing a parent that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a parent, it's an orphan, right? So that's literally all it is. It's just extra data that's there that nobody will ever get to because of the way that the routing works inside of the app. It just means that if somebody were to go and pull down all of the data and they'd look for what the course was that assignment was associated with, there wouldn't be one, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's weird." And then we'd probably delete
yeah,
it.
no one could ever
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah, but you couldn't get there in the UI.
Okay.
So it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I know it's I know. Cool.
No, it's fine. I was asking a similar question
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
So it's not just you.
Yeah, and you can we can add that validation later if we want to, but you'll have to wait till Ashland's courses are created to do it.
Clarifying question: the users all have the same courses and assignments.
Yeah.
Right.
For now.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they
What
kind
we're going to want to do is add an organization,
Gotcha.
and that'll help to limit what you're seeing.
Mhm.
So when you log in, you're going to choose a university, organization, whatever, and then based on that, you're going to see information for just that.
Gotcha. As like for right now, it's almost like it's just an app for one school.
Correct.
Okay.
Or you'd have to do something like prefix every course with the name of your university and the actual thing.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
But then every student sees every single course.
For the moment. Yeah. Yeah, so think about it as though this is an app that we're building for the University of Maryland, and then it's just their app, and that's the only people who are going to use it. But what we'll have to do next week is add the ability to choose an organization, and then you'll filter everything based on that user's organization. So you'll take both the course ID and the user organization, which is something that you can associate with them when they authenticate. Which is why we don't do that right now, because we could add the organization and you could put the organization ID on all these tables, which is probably what you're going to end up doing. But you don't have any way of filtering it because you don't know what organization the student's associated with, and you're only going to be able to get that from their session. So, can't do that. We just can't do it yet. It's easy enough modification when we get Cool.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it for today. That's the nice thing about design. It goes relatively quickly, especially when you only have 4 people. So Tuesdays are a pain. They're probably going to be 2 or 3 hours meetings, but yeah. We used to have ours set up that way too, and we were like, "This is ridiculous. I can't do it." But I don't know a better way of showing you guys all the pieces of that. It's mostly that. Like part of what we moved out was the product planning, where we're coming up with what are the features that we need, and that initial creation of the issue list. We did outside of that, but you guys don't have a product team, so.
The structure is very good for at least me at this point, anyways. So.
Sweet. All right, guys, that's it. See you, Tony.
Look at that. Look at that. Just listen. It doesn't prove.
I don't know.
Well, it rules out.
It rules out
Is
your
it-
charger
You
thing.
can't roll anything out based on I set it on the ground and it didn't turn off.
The whole point is,
It doesn't need.
it
the
doesn't
charger.
need the charger.
Well, I knew I didn't need the charger.
But
Okay.
then that was my whole first question. Why do you move around? And you're like, I need to be near the port. I need to be here. I need to. Bring you.
If it has,
There it goes.
Yeah, see, because
It
you
went off?
moved it.
Wait. We still
Oh
don't
no,
know.
it's still there. It's still fine.
Nice. Oh yeah, it's
If-
probably something that's just loose. I'm getting done.
if I have these
Yes.
at home,
Yeah.
can I bring them in and take this apart?
Oh yeah. I have some in my house, so I can bring in. Yeah, we can totally take it.
That's
Alright.
not nice.
I bet there's
I've-
just a loose connection.
I've lost mine somewhere in my closet.
Yeah.
I can find them.
I'll try to remember. I have them. I just took one of those.
But this is a great thing. You're no longer stuck to a wall.
I know.
How's it going, Sam? Big Rise is disappointed me. Big Rise is grumpy?
Let's see if it did.
Oh. Wow.
First off, everything happen on 1 o'clock. If you want to pick it up right now, or just like 12:45, 12:50, you just want to get together real quick, so I can fill you in. Okay, so with Morehouse, we had an intro call with him, kept it very conceptual, high level. He loves us. Don't think he did.
Well, he didn't say it quite like that. He was like asking how long I had been working out for, which I was like forever. So no, it wasn't just like
I invited his director.
I'll never say it genuinely because I'm sure the one time I decided to say, hey, you look like you lost some weight.
They said they want you to we're not confirmed.
You got the proper response to that.
Be there.
Always got planned. Worst case
To share
scenario.
the live portion, which is something that depends on whether or not I'll need to be there.
the second person.
I got it from my sister when I was.
Yeah, it's from like it's from a play where like the scene, like the guy's going
It
into
should
the house
just
and
be
the
a
mountains
half
falls.
hour.
No, No, yeah, that's what I'm saying, but like the theme of that.
There you go. He's classical. He's got to deal with some trolls.
No, but it's like the house of,
They also
it's
use
like
it in the
House of
social
the Mountain.
network. Social
So
network.
we did talk.
It's called like House of Last Fall.
It's
So
also
like
one of
in
the
the hall,
really
we're not
good
like
hours.
Year transition contract.
Yeah,
In the
Sam's
hall,
thinking about blowing things up. Just think things up.
But everyone that we're talking to.
but it's kind of fun though. It feels important because it's a Greek musical, and it's the sound is in the hall of the Mountain King. It's about like trolls coming down to like deal with kings, like in terms of the musical play. They also use the song in the movie Trolls.
When the time comes.
Isn't that fun?
They use it all the time.
Yeah, someone I
Sam, you can't take this away.
They also sing the gorilla song. Gorillas aren't in trolls. Gorillas are totally different animals. So it's not even really gorillas.
They also say the girl song Planet of the Apes.
Oh, they do a bunch of different stuff. So this particular instance,
It's
and
always.
then someone actually thought about it.
Mention those things, but like there's some trees out.
Working on a private conversation.
Oh yeah.
We're really.
Now you understand security.
I'm reading apparently everybody, companies are switching to Microsoft Teams because it's free.
I'll lead it.
Yeah.
That's how Microsoft gets you. You get the free
In
stuff
my
and
head.
watch it.
I don't think I've ever heard the term like people are switching to
Well, what?
Well, you know, let's show you the actual student.
Yeah.
Well, it's enough all of that. It's enough that
Almost like Microsoft is a free competitor.
But a lot of people like I talked to Paul. They work.
Oh, they
It's
do?
large because their whole infrastructure. Yeah, they go to the.
They trust it. They got a lead source. Yeah.
Just showing.
It's still boggling my mind.
Just showing up.
It's like it's somebody doing IT work now.
Again, kind of have to read the personality.
And they were talking about most of the vice presidents they're managing or so we're starting with.
This is.
Yeah. I just think it's funny because before it was a cloud platform, it was very popular for it. It's like pretty well with Microsoft. .NET's pretty easy. Yeah.
Okay, see ya.
But I'll let
Yeah,
you
they
be.
don't use.
When you get down to part two.
Why?
1 o'clock.
Andrew's trying to get out of the job. They've been trying to do it 6 years.
You got your marijuana C too.
Yeah.
I took the little, whatever, fizzle pill thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yep, I just did that too this morning.
Potentially got a win on copywriting an API, which everyone's Copywriting is going to have tons of submissions. So whoever gets filed first wins in like most of the tech world. All competitors have the same API. Yeah. Yeah.
But they copyrighted. You still have to prove that you were the first one. You can't file with somebody else.
Yeah, Sam, let's like just confuse current intellectual property law with the intent of the copyright system. Those have no relationship to each other.
The law says and how it's interpreted are
Yeah, I mean Oracle, aren't they were bought out by Sun, so they're all the same thing now. And Sun spent like 20 fucking years trying to take out Linux for the same fucking thing. It's literally what their business model has been for like 30 years. If they're gonna win, they got some good prizes out of it. Sun thing's crazy.
So much faster than everything else. Zip drives.
I remember I used to drive on my PC. That Sun nonsense. It's what nuts.
GIS manufacturing stuff way before that was a reality.
AKA Gophers. That's the first one before WWE. I don't remember much about the first life of the Gophers, but I think before WWE. You had to like find a like root server, and then you could essentially start looking around.
Immediately, I looked up the docs, we didn't have internet.
As a tiny child,
How old? Me. I would be when I was like I would out like lay out.
we are just dial-up, but it didn't matter. Just send a big phone.
And so it's
I mean, I had AOL when I was in elementary. But yeah, it's
We had to try
it's
to
just
back
dial-up.
then.
You have
Try
a
to
phone
back
line.
then.
You have a phone line. That's all you need.
I mean, it's only
If it wasn't a made of priority in your household, then
I lived on a farm.
it's a bit different.
How you gonna know when the sunrise is?
Anyone's tides are coming
yeah, I
down.
was gonna say.
Anyone know what weather is?
there's a rock outside. The rock is wet.
My tiny literally doesn't. We're in the house for apartment windows, and she'll look at the window.
Yeah, because I want to know what the feel like.
You want the exact temperature.
Yeah.
It's hot.
It's hot.
I started doing that like when I first got a Google Home for Christmas. Like before I left, I'd be like, "Hey Google, what's the temperature outside?" But she doesn't give me the feel like, and I would get annoyed. So then I would look up the feel like temperature on my phone anyway.
They probably lived in like 13 apps.
Yeah. You just tell me what the feel like is. Like everything I know.
It is a real thing. It just,
It's a real thing.
I mean,
Depends on your susceptibility to humidity. Probably affects people.
Or more it was like in the winter, and like if it's like 35 degrees but it's super windy, that affects like the accessories that I bring.
That's not sure. Because I got so many rain. Is that actually named for a person? Was that like a birthday party?
So my wife went to the George Mason Law School, which is now named after Scobie. They really wanted to capitalize immediately after he died. It was like 3 months that they named the school after him. And Maureen, his wife, he did not. He was
honorary.
He was well known.
Been around long.
Since like the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
He was a well known. He said like the style itself is the
Well, you get worse, but I don't know, like,
conservative people.
I never got to take my eye away.
I don't really, I don't care that much comfortable shirt. It has a picture
About
on
the
it.
shirts related to the school.
So they named the school after him, and they had a day where they invited her to be a part of
She got a
the
day?
naming ceremony.
He got a building and she got a day?
Yeah.
Did they give him any money?
Pardon?
Did they give George Mason any money?
That was cool. You know who did give them money to name the school? Well, definitely not. The cook.
That makes sense.
And my wife was in law school.
Yeah.
They've got tons of money if they can, give her an
Koch
education.
brothers.
Listen,
The Coke,
no matter
Coke
what,
Head Brothers. They probably
no
don't
matter
know
what,
what.
any of their other money goes towards, or whether I like it or you like it or anybody likes it. They paid for mine to go to law school and I'm privileged to.
Yeah. Certainly true.
If they need her to work on some sort of case as like a with pro quo situation.
There no contract wasn't in place before.
I think your wife has to disclose that for any possible clients.
I'm actually funded.
You know,
as
just
a
so you
Koch
know,
Brothers.
it could be a conflict of interest because by law, you're paid for advisor.
Koch brothers.
What was great is they usually gave like this like 40, whatever, like tens and tens of millions of dollars out into the school to rename the school. And they immediately renamed the school the Independent School of Law, which is a terrible acronym. It is unfortunate. I thought it was good. Ass.
It's not just ass though.
Yeah, but it was immediately, they renamed it literally immediately. Like, the legal community is like, it's asshole. They had to rename it.
Independent School of Law.
The,
Just like ass school.
That's so long. That's so long.
so they immediately renamed it to the Independent School of Law.
ASLS.
It's weird.
No, that's ALS.
It's similar. Dyslexia is like the same thing.
Regardless, comfortable shirt. This is what I wear.
Yes, you're wearing.
That would explain why it's red.
I mean, I'm fine.
You don't have any blood money shirts.
If
Don't we
somebody,
all?
if somebody wants to pay me money, I'll do whatever they want.
A Brook brother.
Oh yeah.
No, this isn't Brook brother. This is a banana.
Banana Republic,
That's closer to the
which is
truth.
named
Yeah.
after
Yeah, named
Banana
after.
Republic.
Joey got paid in pajamas.
Okay. You want to talk about blood and people?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's a really good one.
Yeah. Alright, it's a joke that's they didn't like, they weren't founded by people that finance
No, they fed people bananas to make clothing.
Yeah. Those banana people, those banana
Maybe the
dictators.
one's called like Gap too.
The Gap.
Wealth Gap, hello.
It's for the subway, isn't it? The metro.
I have no idea. I'm just like the instance.
The old name, why can't it be the new name? It's
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably
ages
got in trouble
well
if they called it
first.
amazing.
It's the other one. Not a.
What does H&M stand for?
It's two name. It's just two Hens and Marits. Oh, Swedish hers. Oh, Marits is a person? Yes. Like hers and Marits.
Oh, wow, there's no word.
Why is it here?
I don't think I have anyone's brother calls anyone. They have, I do like they have a little lamp hanging from the sheet.
Oh, it's
Hanging
hanging?
lamp? What?
Yeah.
That sounds really twisted.
Not from the neck. Rather send off parties.
It's good to put her.
Like, I think it's about the
Is it
Greek
somebody
myth
better
about
than
the
one?
calf. I was thinking a calf or something.
Everything about golden cats were bad, so I don't know that that's really a good
Or is it
logo.
the golden fleece? No, it's the golden
Yeah,
fleece.
the golden cat is
That's the like Herculean thing.
No, the golden calf was when
Greek
they
mythology,
when
the golden
Moses came
fleece.
down with the commandments, and then they melted all the shit with the golden calf, and he was like,
Well, they did
Yeah,
that
I know,
first.
and this cap just like came out.
Now the golden
So the
fleece
golden
is
fleece,
basically
your golden ring rafters.
That was like original.
Jason, and his crew of Argonauts.
yeah, that's what it is.
Set out and quest for the police. By the order of the police.
You know what the name of the bad was?
Here, give me a second.
It's in the name of Argo. Yeah.
Oh, like the movie?
Not
It's literally like the movie. Argus? Is that what it's called?
the movie was called
Argo, because Argos is the tool that we use.
Argo was the name of the fake movie.
Yeah.
But
It's also the name of the real movie that no one watched in the theater.
That's It was supposed to be a sci-fi movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A fake car.
Doesn't seem to be the book. Brixus?
He wouldn't like an Oscar or something.
Did
He
win
won
an
Best
Oscar.
Director.
Which is still.
And they became Sam Casey. They became Sam Sad Batman.
He won an Oscar for
Best Director.
Best Actor, but in the really sad one was very
Manchester by the Sea. And then the next year, everybody's like, oh, we shouldn't have done that. Because he got.
Brie Larson
it
didn't
came
clap
out
for it.
because it came out that he had settled down when he threw away. So he put it in section 5 Right.
Yeah, which is like Brie Larson won Best Actress for Room, which is pretty related.
Literally pretty simple.
I don't know, you seen that movie? Yeah, really good.
Which movie?
Room? No, Room.
That's horrifying.
Okay. I was like, I'll go into it. It's not a scary
You actually
movie.
watch it or you just wait
I have actually. It's not a scary movie. It's just very. It
it's done or you create a custom?
has a happy ending.
It's psychological.
Yeah,
Makes sense. Positive ending.
Right? We have any explosions.
Like, well done.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, like not, I mean, it's like, not like a happy
the kid was good.
It's sort of not a story.
So she's like kidnapped when she was 17, like held in a shelter. Yeah, for JC. So maybe JC Lee's like similar storyline, and then like they get out, and then she's sort of person and deal with it with herself afterwards.
He was in that new Predator movie. The one is horrible.
Is it franchise? Is it Alien vs Predator again? Or is it
Predator. Just Predator.
Because the kids early, don't you just sign up for those? Because they're going to give you a ton of money.
No, you need to wait. You need to look at the source material. You need to decide: is this true to the source material? You're right about firing his agent. His agent's probably his mom. He was in another movie where he was like, well, obviously he played a kid, but like he was friends with another kid and something. I don't know.
Doesn't have to play a kid.
Playing an adult.
Umbrella Academy.
Like
That
big.
kid plays an adult.
Isn't big when the kid's an adult?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the opposite. That was the never seen. Why is it a different exactly?
I mean, kinda. That would actually switch back and forth way more than they could.
Yeah. He's not the actor for the larger one.
It's a lot of makeup, post-processing.
How they filmed it. Wait 10 years.
That'd be an amazing production.
There was a movie. There wasn't a movie like that.
Yeah. Boy Good,
Boy.
yeah. But that was the same kid.
Well, they should just reverse Benjamin Button.
That's what I said, Benjamin Button. He was a kid playing an old man.
Which is
Right.
reverse Benjamin Button.
Literally filmed the movie backwards. The Book of Henry, that's the bad movie. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that was the movie you were going into that one. What is the accounting number? And who was in charge?
You made me, don't.
Don't
You were
worry,
gonna
that's
make a
the problem.
joke.
I was here when he was in charge of all the
possessions that they paid us, so they dropped it. Then he had to go through that. But what was interesting is they didn't have a long journey that allowed them to prosecute SS soldiers unless they were specifically involved in the murder. So for decades they hadn't prosecuted him, and then they finally acknowledged that if he was taking all those good for those people down, and they knew where they were going, and that they would never be coming back for these goods, and therefore he was five 1993. And they also told the story of Ivan Terrible, who was apparently and he was like the worst SS guard by far. And we found this guy in Ohio, who had been living in Ohio with his grandfather, who raised his kids, and was living there, worked in a Ford factory, and somehow they figured out that he was Ivan Terrible. And they extradited him to Israel, where he stood trial, was convicted, sentenced to life in jail in Israel, and then the Berlin Wall came down, and we got access to all these Russian files, and it turned out he wasn't Ivan Terrible. And so he was, however, he still did work ethic. That guy, he wasn't innocent. He wasn't as guilty as that guy. But there were people in the courtroom that were like staring him in the face, like angry, like, no, you killed my family. You know, they recognized him as that guy.
Eyewitness testimony. It's not great.
It's the worst. So then he was extradited from the U.S. back. He came back to the U.S. and the U.S. worked with Germany to get him up there. He was the first one tried under the Hindu laws because they didn't have evidence. As Ivan Terrible, there was evidence directly from this guy had.
You would think they would go after the person they misaccused as like the foundation of the case. There's no people they're going after.
There's no different countries.
Yes,
It's a different country. It's real messed up.
Yeah, trust me, like, if you knew the background, you wouldn't have like, felt bad for him. Just slightly.
Then you are the worst person on the planet.
I was thinking the It's Always Sunny episode where like he and Dennis's grandpa is dying in the hospital and is like, bring me my uniform so I can dye my uniform and go into his house and find his uniform and then had again it's a Nazi uniform.
That show had a real
What's the one where they like, aren't they like burning like a picture of a dog and that's like Hitler's picture or something? Those storylines?
That's the same episode.
Yeah.
So Charlie and Mac realize that they're like, this must have some value. Like they have a whole box of his stuff. And they like take it to the like Philadelphia Museum of History or something, and like the curator is like, are you literally trying to sell me like Nazi memorabilia? Get the hell out of here. And so then they decide to burn it because they're like, we can't make any money off of it. If we have it, people think we're Nazis, so we should just burn it. And they burn it, and like I think you see that like something they're burning is like a letter from Hitler, and like with a photo, and like
They're like implying it's Hitler.
no stuff that is just
Yeah, they like imply it's Hitler.
stuff that has serious historical significance. And Charlie put it on at one point too. Yeah.
I think one of my favorite moments in It's So Sunny, there's so many, is like when Mac becomes Christian and they go on the cruise and he puts battery, he like makes Danny DeVito wear a cross, but he puts battery acid in the back of it so he thinks it's burning into his
The two episodes they've done where they do the Wade Boggs plane challenge are so fun. They do the first one and then they do it again with just the women from the show, and they're like the whole time they're like, it's not a reboot. It's all women. It's not a reboot. It's different. It's different. It's very different.
I wonder how much money those people are worth.
I really like
Do you
the
see
show
Mac?
he had.
I mean, Dennis's show.
It's funny. And she was like, their aunt, and she had to take care of them.
Yeah, Rob,
They had funny.
McElhenney worth $40 million.
Who?
Matt, he's the
He's starting a new show where he plays like the head of a game.
Yeah. And they got super jacked for the last season.
He's married to
Danny DeVito?
No, like,
You said that right after
yeah,
she said
the baby that she had, that's like their kid. 80 million.
Cheers.
I feel like he should be worth more than that. Yeah, so he's done that stuff.
I mean, but he's done a lot of like second. What's it called? Like he wasn't the primary. He was on.
Like he's supporting actor. No, that's Mary Kate.
And was he on Caitlyn?
I think I may have just
I thought Mary Beth.
Caitlyn Wilson, yeah.
Well, I mean, she has.
It says 16, but if they're married and he's worth 40. Didn't you tell me, Bill? $1 billion. What about Drake? What did Drake say? Nothing. So it's 8 or 15 million.
What is Jerry Seinfeld?
Not even
Did he break $1 billion?
He's got to be 3 times above that.
950 million.
So all these guys have money.
So he needs to do another meeting.
These are all estimates.
I
These are
thought
like-
Forbes like exact rates.
Yeah, they like.
Like that happened to like Giselle Bundchen, like she
Well,
got
that happened to
audited.
Trump.
Oh,
He like just lied to them about how
well.
much
We think like something happened, like Giselle Bundchen came out in an article and they like said she was worth a lot more than she actually was, and then she got like audited. And she was like, that wasn't true. Like I'm not worth that much money, and like it caused like a bunch of problems.
Yeah, on to like Uggs.
Huh?
Once you know on to Uggs by now.
It's true. Like the brand or like
That's
shoes.
her husband.
I
Her trophy
own
husband.
those. Uggs are great. They're so good. We can really argue with my opinion.
That's what all arguments are.
I find them to be
He is,
comfortable.
he is saying that your concept of comfort is wrong. You do not understand what comfort is.
It's true. I don't wear blood t-shirts, so you know.
Again, I would do anything for money.
So if I pay you $100, you should Uggs.
Uggs are extremely hard.
There you go.
It's like, when first talking to my parents, like, I want to like do like, I don't know, learn how to do like programming or something. Right? And they're like, okay, cool, this is interesting, and this was like around the time that like Google was getting screamed at by people on was making whole said about the process for stuff in America. Like, like that, and it's like, are you kidding me?
Because of the milk.
They pulled the awesome the like political biasy stuff.
Oh, I remember that.
I was like, listen, I don't care what I think. I think enough money. I will take away every single video or website that look at the political party. You give me money, I'll take them all. I don't care. It's terrible.
How much would I have to pay for Emily? Oh, that's wrong with
$1,000.
$1,000? You're saying $1,000?
Yeah.
You get waterboarded for $1,000? Sure.
I'm not doing it.
You didn't even hear how long I considered one section of waterboarding.
$1,000. But those terms haven't been written, so I'm a part of writing those terms. Also, it's not
the rent, at least. Okay. So you do it for free.
Shit, I should probably just work harder at my job.
Yeah.
Actually make commission.
Yeah. Just sell more things.
You don't have to get one.
You don't have to get waterboarding.
That's like,
It's like if you
It's extra money. I mean, how long you get bored waterboarding after an hour?
here's my thought.
I don't know. You're conscious after an hour.
Well, like if you ask Will to do it, right?
Or we have to get bored.
He doesn't know me. He's just gonna go
It's
for
either
it.
that or sell
it
my
plays love for love.
it doesn't matter. Anybody can do it, except I'm not going to be the one that does it because that's a crazy
It's
the person's name.
And I don't
Right.
like
Absolutely.
Egregious.
I mean,
I'm like,
what do we?
it ruins the
We
entire
should-
experience.
You have to cut down on the middle of the meat,
All right.
And then more water.
push veggies to the top.
You went to Uptown?
Did you see this?
Yeah. We got the sushi stuff.
Yeah.
It's weird just how that one lady makes it.
Oh, that's true. From this angle, it looked like it was part of the bread. And I was like, maybe you on the top layer.
Wouldn't you want to do it the other way?
Everywhere else does.
To answer your question, I'd do it proper. I'd allow you to properly waterboard it if I just got the years with it.
Like here.
But they guarantee that your water dog comes back.
That's
That-
So you want to do it.
I'll do it for half a year.
Yeah.
C1, yeah, plus bread.
Yeah, but I mean, as if I'm here, but I'm not for a year.
How long do you get water?
As long as I don't die, go ahead.
What if it's a year?
What?
Yeah, you get a year of waterboarding or a year of
Well, no, that is your vacation.
Yeah, what if your
No,
job?
but
Your
your
job
job
is
If you
job
are
is now-
consistently waterboarding, there's a point at which
That's
you'll
what I'm
stop.
saying. Well, you're also going to get bored. No way.
Now you could rotate probably like 10 psychopaths out there.
So right now, it's a big waterboarding. Or not.
It's mostly like
You do the sensation of
drowning.
You want it dark, nice and clean.
It's literally what it is. Yeah, I'm sure you're right.
And then also like the
Yeah, you could be but the difference is, I know I'm getting done with it.
That's true.
So